Good evening, and thank you for tuning in to Sunday Soul Care on the Restored to Power YouTube channel. I am Kimberly Ford, and I am so excited that you've tuned in. Whether it's your first time or if you've been following along, thanks for tuning in. It's always my desire to just encourage you and inspire those that need it Sunday evening before you're starting your work week on Monday. I just want to be a blessing to you. And for the most part, I have been doing this for several weeks now, and the response has been awesome. So thank you for your comments. Thank you for your prayers and your support. Thank you. So tonight I am going to continue reading from my book, Hope for the Soul, Make Yourself at Home in God's Heart. This book was previously released a few years ago, but God told me to bring it back out. I want to bless everyone who hasn't heard of the book, who hasn't ordered the book, so that you can go and grab you a copy. If you don't have a copy, I highly suggest that you head over to my website at KimberlyMichelleFord.com and just click the publications link, and you can actually see how to grab a copy. Now, this book has been such a blessing. It's been a blessing to me. It's been a blessing to many others. And I just want to keep it going. I've written several books, but this book continues to bless so many people. It's a quick 21 short story devotional to inspire you, whether you're at home, whether you're in your car, whether you're in the bathroom, or maybe you're just at work, sitting at your desk and need to be encouraged to keep going throughout the day. Grab your copy of Hope for the Soul. I promise you won't regret it. Now, today I had the opportunity of sharing it at the Senior Living Center across the street from my church, and they were so inspired by Hope for the Soul. And so they asked me, Kimberly, can you come back and read on a regular basis? Of course, I said yes, right? So I'm always just inspired to be a blessing to other people, to encourage them no matter where they are in life, what generation they're in, or what's going on in the world. Everyone needs a dose of hope, right? So get you a copy. I'm going to continue reading the book. Last week I read the introduction. The subtitle is Make Yourself at Home in God's Heart. Now, if you want to know what that means, I highly suggest going back and listening to last week's Sunday Soul Care, because I really talked about what it means to allow God to welcome you in and allow him to just embrace you and the things that come with you. Lay out your burdens and your cares right at his feet. At the end of each day, he's desiring for us to come to him. So get last week, go back and listen to it, grab a copy of the book, and you'll totally get it. But I'm going to continue to read a few chapters over the next couple of weeks, and hopefully that'll whet your appetite to get the whole book. I won't read the whole book, can't do that, but I will pick out a few chapters, a few of my favorites that I know are going to bless you, especially in this season that we're all in, globally, economically. And so, grab a copy, but in the meantime, you can listen to a couple of the snippets that I'm going to share over the next few weeks. So tonight I am going to pick up from chapter 1, since we've already done the introduction. And chapter 1 is titled Getting Up After the Fall. And so I'm going to open it up and start reading it. I won't read the whole chapter, but what's most important, that's what I'm going to share. So tune in. How many of you know what it's like to fall? And I don't mean trip over the curb and scrape your knee or stump your toe, but I'm referring to a fall from a high place, all the way down to an extremely low place. I mean, like falling down a flight of what may appear to be a never-ending staircase to utterly fall flat on your face. No matter how you braced yourself, all of your attempts to slow the progression of your fall would fail. And upon landing, every part of your body, soul, and spirit would feel the pain and impact of your crash. Regardless of our diverse beginnings, whether humble or wealthy, most of us are created with this internal need and desire to accomplish goals that are seemingly impossible. The ambition is woven into the fabric of our being to challenge our limitations, defy the odds against us, and accomplish something that may or may not have been accomplished by anyone else. We dream dreams that no one else has dreamed of. We set out to charter courses that no other person has chartered before. We seek to build businesses that offer a product or service that has never been thought of. or we simply seek to advance technology in order to offer society a faster or more effective way of existing. Since the beginning of time, we have worked extremely hard to excel at something greater than our assumed capacity. We all want to leave a mark in this world, to have our name remembered, to have our existence count for something other than simply existing, right? We all want to be great. But while we are on our course to being great, the higher we climb and the closer we get to our dreams becoming reality, we grow confident that our goals are on track. We're confident that we're indeed a genius and our blueprint for success will work after all. We may have a few delays and setbacks along the way, but as we keep climbing, we grow even more confident. But then the unexpected crash occurs. We hit a wall and our efforts appear to have all been in vain. And now it appears that all of our work was wrong, our hopes were misdirected, and it appears that instead of going up, we've been on this kamikaze downward spiral crash all along. Stricken with disappointment and grief, we realize that we can't go any further in the direction we were headed. We must now find the dignity, the courage, and the will to dream a new dream. So I'm going to stop right there for the first part of the reading tonight. Proverbs 24:16 reads, "For a righteous man falls 7 times and rises again." You know, God's ways are not our ways. We absolutely must allow him to reveal what's best for us, right? We're allowed to dream. We're allowed to imagine the best. We're allowed to pursue the best for our friends and our family and our community. But we always have to remember that his ways are not our ways. Even when we think we have it right, even when we have great dreams and we lay it before God and we surrender it to him and we pray and ask for him to bless it, there are still times that we may get it wrong, right? And when that happens, God will have his way. When we get it wrong, we have to allow him to redirect us on the right path. And then we've got to dream again. So let's keep reading. In 2011, I suffered a great fall. My life had drastically changed since my divorce, and I was working very hard to build a secure foundation to support my children. I found my passion for helping people through my work in the employment industry, so I was determined to build a career in the field. For well over a year, I had worked to position myself for a new role, a role that would allow me to use the untapped potential that lie dormant inside me. I thought, finally, I will get to play an important role with my company, and the glass ceiling that's held me back is about to break. Finally. Over the years, I've been praised for my organizational talent, leadership, and professionalism, but the promotions I sought would seem to never go through. Then, when it finally did, the recession of 2008 began, and the owner of the business closed his doors just 6 weeks after I was promoted to my new leadership role. This time, I felt it would be different. It's 2011, and after a life of glass ceilings and closed doors, I've managed to hope again for the opportunity to be a successful business leader. I had waited and served my organization for 2 whole years now, and for 10 years, I had even endured the pain of watching others younger, quicker, and more charismatic and with their degrees be promoted much sooner than me. But surely, because of my resilient faith and endurance, it's my time, right? Well, the day finally came and I woke up with the great expectation of hearing this great news outlining the details of my promotion. But as I started out the door dressed to impress, I yelled to the kids, "Wake up, get your day started. I love you, I'm leaving now." And I started down the stairs. The first step went well, but after the second step, something unexpected occurred. My left foot went forward to take the third step, and my right foot didn't follow. The heel of my shoe had gotten caught in the carpet, and the hem of my jeans stayed there to watch. It was a fearful ride down the remaining flight of stairs, desperately grabbing at spindles and rails to help stop the wreck, and I painfully landed face first, fingers second onto the carpet at the bottom of the staircase. For a few moments, I lay there, entertaining the idea of calling it a day. I envisioned myself lying there and then phoning my boss to inform her of my calamity. I envisioned myself back in bed. But then I remembered, today is that day. No way would I waste all of those days waiting for an answer by giving into a fall down the stairs. And somehow at that moment, the fall down the stairs became irrelevant and the pain I felt non-existent. So I mustered up a shout for help, which, by the way, confirmed my daughter's fear, and she came running down, screaming, traumatized herself at the sight of seeing her mother lying at the foot of the stairs. She reached out, grabbed me by my hand, and helped me roll over onto my feet. Did you hear me say roll? I literally had to roll over onto my feet. I grabbed my purse and straightened out my wrinkles, then started out the door. So let's pause for a minute. God has given us the power and the grace to get up. It doesn't matter why we fail or where we fail, but He is always and always will give us the power to get back up and keep moving forward. Yeah, He does. Proverbs 24:16, like I said, it reads, "For a righteous man falls 7 times, but he gets back up." And what makes him rise again? Grace. Let's keep going. I got to work just in time. I limped off the elevator, down the hallway, and made it to my desk. Focused on the assurance of victory, I started my day. I'm cross-training new hires for the job they're about to begin when an email alert pops up on the screen, and it reads, "I'm considering you for my open position effective February 1st, which was literally 1 week away. Could you please send me your information which confirms you have met or exceeded your 4th quarter goals?" Well, I knew I had met them, so I was equally excited to respond. After lunch, my boss makes it into the office, and about an hour or two later, she comes over with a blank look and says, "Can you come into my office?" It's time. She's got good news. I can just feel it. So I stand up and I carefully walk towards her office and I take a seat, smiling. She has trouble starting, but nevertheless, she starts. We were measured by a performance pyramid for the last 2 quarters of the previous year. However, the executive leadership had discovered that the performance metrics were measured and flawed and in fact, a setup for failure. I'm going to read that sentence again. However, the executive leadership had discovered that the performance metrics we were measured by were flawed and in fact, a setup for failure. Several people were negatively affected by the measurement, so the management team discontinued use of the performance plan and changed the way they measured our performance. But that would start January the 1st. My boss was here to tell me that unfortunately for me, the performance pyramid still had enough time to do one more injustice to me. The leaders refused to promote me on the basis of the pyramid, though it was proven to be a flawed measurement. And like the fall down the stairs earlier that morning, I only wanted to belt out a scream for help. Symbolically, as my body plunged towards the bottom of the staircase, my dream of advancing up this corporate ladder, reaching for success, took its own plunge towards the ground. I couldn't respond verbally without breaking down in my boss's office, so I walked away. I finally made it home after a long ride, crying and screaming in tears. I spent the night crying in my sleep as I switched back and forth between, "It's not fair. How could this happen? I've worked so hard and I'm just tired of it all." Twice in the same day, I had felt the impact of a crash landing, and they both left me in an enormous amount of pain. But my season of falling would not end so soon. Exactly 1 week after the day of the disaster, I recognized a pain in my stomach that wouldn't seem to subside. At first, I thought it's the stress in my life, work, the kids, the school, ministry. Then I thought, it's only my nerves. I'm just nervous and excited about this promotion. But then, after the promotion failed, the following week, I began to question, why is my stomach still in such painful knots? By Friday, I was experiencing a pain that just would not go away, and by 4 p.m., I determined that I must go straight to the emergency room after work. I finally arrived at the emergency room at about 8 p.m., and just my luck, the emergency room is packed to capacity. All the beds are full, and it's standing room only, and here I am in pain like many others, and the place of my healing is overflowed with the sick. After several hours of waiting in pain, it was my turn, and I lie there on the table as the nurse performed an ultrasound. The doctor came in around 3:30 a.m. and lays it on me. Your gallbladder is packed with stones, and you must have surgery immediately, Kimberly. I sat there amazed and confused all at once. How could this have happened to me? Why am I here? There must be some mistake. But the doctor assured me he was correct and that I was being admitted to the hospital and prepared for immediate surgery. What an unexpected and inconvenient blow to my life. I thought first about how to get my kids situated. And then my second immediate thought would be, is this going to be quick? I have to be at work Monday morning. My aunt asked the doctor, how long will the recovery process be, doctor? He responds, 7 to 10 days. So now I'm thinking, oh my Lord, how in the world will I be a mother to 3 kids, continue my classes, and go to work if I am on bed rest for 7 to 10 days? It sounded like such a long time, but God had a plan. My surgery went well the next day, and by nighttime, I was being rushed out of there to go home to rest and recover. But in less than 1 week, other complications arose. My stitches had burst, and I found myself back in the hospital again. The doctor rushed me back into surgery for repair. As crazy as it sounds, after the second surgery, I took another fall down the stairs, and to top things all off, 1 week later, I discovered that due to all of the time taken off work, I would not receive full payment from work, and as a result, I would not be able to pay my bills. I couldn't begin to fathom what in the world God was doing. Many times God will call us to a place of disaster, tear our lives apart, all so that he can begin to put us back together again. It was truly not my desire to be thrown down a flight of stairs twice, fail at a much sought after promotion, and then slammed across the surgery table twice in 7 days. It was obvious that God was speaking loud and clear in my life, and he wanted to get my attention. The way we expect for our lives to be elevated quite normally never goes according to our plan. But what I began to learn is that God can do whatever he wants to do, however he wants to do it, and I have zero say-so in the matter. When we surrender, nothing is impossible for God. I know this story sounds like total calamity. I felt like Job. It felt like every 7 days a bad report was coming. But just like Job, in Job 23:10, I wanted to say, but he knows the way that I take. When he has tested me, I shall come forth as gold. Right? Job was referring to the test of his surrender. So many times we're going through what seems like a mountain of chaos or a mountain of just never ending bad luck, which I don't believe in luck. I believe that everything has a purpose and a season. But Job realized that it was a test. He realized that once he surrendered to God, everything that he had lost, everything that he, held near and dear to him, that's when God restored him, when he surrendered. So when he said in the scripture, when he has tested me, I will come forth as gold, he was still in the thick of the testing. Job realized that everything I'm going through has to be the hand of God at work in my life. When I know that I've been righteous before God and I live my life to serve God, I'm reading his word and I'm seeking his face, and I walk by his spirit, and I have strong faith, and these types of things happen that you didn't provoke, it's evidence that God is testing you. And sometimes we may want to, turn down our faith and just say, what in the world is going on? There's so many things that want to distract us from our faith and cause us to doubt God. But like Job, we must say, when he has finished testing me, I will come forth as gold. So let's continue. After the first fall down the stairs, I questioned God. Why did I fall? Why am I here? And it hurt so bad that I even asked myself, do I even want to get up? And even though I had all these questions in my mind, I pictured my promotion coming that day. So I couldn't stay there. At the bottom of the stairs, I created a picture in my mind of me in a better place. So that gave me the strength to get back up again. Only I got to work to find out that even though I pressed past my place of pain, I got no promotion. I had taken the time to properly plan. I networked for the promotion. I excelled at presentations, and I served and performed at a level of excellence. After my recovery from surgery, I went back to work and found out they had also given my other promotion, which is the one that I would have been considered for as a backup. They had given that one away to someone else. I went in the bathroom stall and I cried like a 5-year-old who had lost her way home. Now it truly seemed that all of my efforts had gone down in vain. I began to wonder, why, God? Why? Why now? I wondered, why me? I'm yours, I serve you, and I'm working to help your people. My motives are pure, but I am watching as all my enemies are prospering. Where is my reward? I'm willing to admit I was angry, and I thought I deserved more. I knew that I deserved more. I felt I deserved immediate answers. And for a brief moment in my life, I forgot that he is God all by himself. I didn't know God's plan, and he would surely not reveal it to me as I approached him in anger. All I knew was I wanted to be a leader, and I also needed the extra money to provide for my children. I was tired of being in a position less than my capacity. How many of you have said, I'm better than this? I'm better than poverty. I'm better than this wheelchair. I'm better than government assistance. I'm better than handouts. I ask God, where is your glory in all of this? How could you possibly be getting the glory in my pain? You're supposed to get the victory, God. Your people are supposed to prosper. So what in the world is going on, God? Does that sound familiar? Have you been there? Well, I'll tell you this. When we surrender, there is nothing impossible for God. Nothing is impossible for our families. Nothing is impossible for our careers, the dreams that we have for our community, the changes we want to make in our health. If you have children that are going through court proceedings, or if you're waiting for a final decree from a jury or a judge, nothing is impossible to God when you surrender. Now, I don't know what he's calling you to surrender, but I just feel led to share with you that when you surrender, the thing that you seek most is not impossible to God. It's not impossible for him to turn everything around for you, for your good, in your favor. So let's keep reading. When I came out of the bathroom, as I began to walk back to my desk, God responded to my cries for an answer so clearly. You said I could use you, right? And like a child caught in her foolishness, I could only reply, huh? Then I heard his voice again. You said I could use you, right? Right then and there, I learned a powerful yet painful lesson. Many times we ask God to use us, but we never expect for it to hurt. We never expect to lose jobs or things or people dear to us. We never expect for him to change our plans. We don't expect to be disappointed. We never expect for him to remove us from our place of comfort or security. But I've learned that by surrendering to God, you are subjecting yourself to his ultimate plan for your life. If you sincerely ask God to use you, he will surely answer your prayer. But be prepared for him to use you in his own way. He is God, and he can use you how he chooses. God is not concerned with our feelings. I began to reflect on the relationships that I've been praying for, several of which I've been praying for years. My boss, who was agnostic at the time, told me over lunch with tears rolling down her face that she was truly blessed by having known me. Did you hear me say she was agnostic? She even contributed $200 into the payment for my monthly bills. My director, who was on the fence with his relationship with God and who often joked about the biblical principles I lived by and my submission to God, but in my darkest season, God touched this man's heart, and he also blessed me financially to cover my bills after the surgery. And then my sister, whom had always lived a troubled life, she had been homeless off and on. But she called me the day after I got the first promotion bad news. I'll never forget the sound of her sweet voice. Kim, I got my own apartment. I did it. I got my first apartment. Instantly, after reflecting on God's work happening around me, I began to see the breaking of day. I began to understand the purpose for my storm, and then it didn't hurt quite as much. See, I began to see the light. I realized that everybody around me was observing how I managed this dark season of my life. And as I kept going, when others would have quit, they were recognizing why I was able to stand. As a result, they too were being empowered, and God was indeed getting the glory in my storm. Once I realized that my fall had a purpose and that I wasn't just being tossed and driven by the wind with no course in mind, then I could accept his perfect will for my life. I don't know about you, but I need for my storm to make sense. I don't have time to go through a storm just to be going through it. People say God will do things that don't make sense, but I'm here to tell you, even though God's ways are not our ways and his thoughts are not our thoughts, he will indeed reveal his secret wisdom to his people. It may not always be what you want to hear. It may not be a plan that's comfortable to you, but he will reveal his plans to you. And as long as you let God help you make sense of your fall, then you can trust him to bring you through it. He will not just bring you to the test, but he'll bring you through the test. After this, I began to realize the purpose of a fall. The purpose of a fall is sometimes you have to come to the end of yourself in order for God to step in and do the miraculous in your life. I'm going to pause there for a minute before I go through the close, and I want to just highlight that God's plan will always prevail. When we have an idea, we simply must surrender that idea to God. We've got to hand it over to him. As good as it sounds, as intact as it may seem, the blueprint may seem perfect, but surrendering that plan and that dream to God is critical. I'm going to share why. Our ideas and our agendas and our motives and our plans, they're perfect, they're good, they come from a great place. But God only gets the glory when we embrace his grace. We have to turn those plans over to God, because when we turn them over to him, he can do whatever he wants with that plan. He can change it. He can revise it. He can scrap it all together. But the mere fact that we handed it over to him means that it no longer belongs to us. And so if we hand it over and it belongs to him, when he changes it or revises it or scraps it, guess what? Our emotions are no longer attached to that plan. We can receive his change with grace and with power and with understanding and without being devastated. So that's why we've got to turn our plans over to God. Submit your and present your request to God and let him do what's best. So now I'm going to get ready to close. I'm going to read the most powerful part of this chapter. In order to get up from the falls, I had to make a conscious decision to trust him with my life. I had to learn how to trust God with my fall. I'm going to pause right there for another second. A lot of times when things are going right, that's when we trust God. When we think we've got it figured out, that's when we trust God, because we feel like it's a no-fail situation. But when we've fallen and we can't understand the reason why we fell, we can't understand the reason why we lost something, that's when we make the mistake of leaving God out of the equation. But we have got to trust God even with the fall. Yeah, that's when God needs us to trust him most. So let me keep going. If God calls you or draws you to a low place by any circumstance in your life, there is nothing you can do to stop it. It's like falling down the stairs, and as you see yourself drawing closer to the bottom, you reach for the rails and you try to stop the descension, but once the fall is in motion, there is no turning back. I had to learn that as I saw another fall coming, I would need to brace myself for the fall and trust God to meet me there. I had to trust that God had a plan and a purpose for my fall. I had to trust, like Job, that even though God allowed the fall, he already had a plan to restore my life with double for my trouble. I had to trust that God had a plan to prosper me, a plan to keep me in good health, and a plan to prosper my soul. I had to trust in the Lord with all my heart and lean not in my own understanding. I had to trust that he would really direct my path like he said he would. Getting up is never easy. But you have to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that it's not over until God says it's over. This is not the end, and tomorrow's joy will be much greater than yesterday's pain. The very minute you change your way of thinking, anything, and I mean anything, could happen. It's not over for you. God has a plan to move you from yesterday's fall to tomorrow's rise to glory. No matter how bad it looks, nothing is impossible for God. Everything you need has already been provided for you. But you've got to believe. You've got to get past the disappointment, get past the pain, and move towards his grace. You have the grace to get up. And that's what I want to summarize for chapter 1. The fifth point I really want you to take away from chapter 1 is God must always be the goal. God's glory is most important. Despite the situation you're going through, how you go through it determines if God will get the glory. And when you realize that every fall that you experience, every trauma you experience, every disappointment or setback you go through, God's glory is the goal. Yes. How do you think God gets the glory? Okay, so let's just answer that. Paul says in his scripture, somewhere in Corinthians, I don't know it right now, but Paul says in his word, his grace is made perfect for me, even in my weakness. It is when I'm weak, when he's strong. His grace is sufficient for me when I'm weak. So that's how God gets the glory. God gives you the power to get up from every fall. And when we receive his grace and we embrace the fact that he has given us that grace to get back up again, that's when God gets the glory. Every time you fall, every time you've been oppressed or traumatized, and you make the determination that I'm not going to stay here, I'm going to get up, I'm going to keep moving forward, no matter what come or what may, I am getting back up again, God instantly gets the glory. You heard the saying, let God be glorified and the enemy horrified. That's how it happens. The enemy is horrified every time you get back up again. It frightens him to know that his tactics and his plans are failing. He's coming every way he can to take us out in this season. But we've got to get up. We've got to keep going. We've got to trust God. We have got to believe and know in the seat of our soul that the power of God is in us to get up and keep going forward. He's got a plan, and his plan will prevail. No matter if they have to change things or reconstruct things a little bit, maybe there's a diversion, maybe God is going to do something more exciting than what you could have even imagined. The Bible says that he is able to do exceeding and abundantly above all that which we could ask or imagine. So think about that. There are some things that God wants to do in our lives that we haven't even prayed for. Think about that. Now, we pray for some big things, right? Maybe you're praying for a new home. Maybe you're praying for a new car. Maybe you're praying for a hot tub. Maybe you're just praying for your children to be in the right mind. Maybe you're praying for a new job, or maybe you're praying to just keep your job. But God can exceed that. He can do even more than that. Allow God to get the glory by receiving his grace to get up and keep moving forward. So that's tonight's Sunday Soul Care. I hope that I've encouraged you from Hope for the Soul. Again, you can get a copy of this book at I know people don't say www anymore, but I still say it. But it's at www.KimberlyMichelleFord.com. Go to the link in my bio or just Google my name. It'll come right up. But I want you to have a copy of this book so that it will bless your life. It's still blessing me today, and I released it, I think maybe 5 years ago. I'm still reading it, and it still brings tears to my eyes at times, because the journey doesn't end when you receive the blessing. You'll continue to be tested, you'll continue to be tried, and you need to be encouraged each time the enemy pops up again. Each time God tests you. Sometimes it's not the enemy. Sometimes it's just God testing you to believe in his word. And even when he's testing you, you need to be encouraged and reminded of your why. Yeah. Sometimes we have to be reminded of the why. Like, why are we trusting God anyway? Because he is a God that we can, even though we can't see him, we can see the manifested glory of his presence in our daily lives. Even though we can't touch him, we can feel the tangible presence in our lives when we wake up and brush our teeth and feed ourselves and see food in the refrigerator and flip on the lights and feel the AC. Those are tangible evidence and proof of his presence in our lives. It's tangible evidence and proof that his plan prevails and that he will not fail us. Grab your copy of this book. I could talk all day about Hope for the Soul. I could encourage you all night like this. But I want you to get the book and just read through it and be encouraged. Thank you for tuning in to Sunday Soul Care. It's been an honor and a privilege with you tonight. Hey, like it, share it, and click the bell to subscribe so that you can get the next message next week.